They say the most beautiful art comes from broken hearts. Mine was shattered into 1,000 pieces, and I turned each one into a page of this book. There I was, spring 2021, freshly out of a breakup from a relationship that lasted 5 years. This relationship, at times, maybe more times than I would like to admit, was emotionally abusive. And I was by myself. I had my new place in a different city, far away from that person. Luckily, I knew the city. I just never lived there before. So it wasn't completely new. And, I had friends and dear ones about an hour away. My family, though, was oceans away. In some ways, I think for what I was going through, I preferred having them oceans away because I really needed that space. I needed that space for myself. And on top of the breakup, I fell from one pan into another pan, and that pan is a situationship. But someone that I actually considered a good friend, and to this day I battle about that consideration. Was that person waiting for me to get single to try something? Yeah, that kind of consideration. But yeah, I consider that person a good friend, and I still hold them in my heart till this day, despite of everything. And even the person from the breakup I hold in my heart, despite of everything. But yeah, then with some people, I think distance is definitely needed, and you can love those people from a distance. Yeah. So yeah, I was in excruciating pain because of the fact of the breakup and the situationship. And it happened to be when I wrote my best poems. I've learned to comfort my heart with gentle patting of my chest. Sounds of applause for it surviving all I've put it through, by wanting people who are unable to return the song it sings for them. You have this idea of the tortured artists making the best art in pain. And, I would like that to not always be necessary, but I get that. I think it's not necessarily pain, but it's an intense emotion. And I would like my future to be making art from intense happiness and intense freedom. This is the story of how words saved me and how words empowered me, and them being my own words makes it that more special for me, because it feels like I wrote myself a guideline that I can go back and read and reread, and depending on the phase I am in my life, it reads differently, and it feels like it's layers of like meaning hidden in, because I write short stories. Like, I'm good at writing, saying a lot with very little words. And so it would be difficult for me to really write something that is stretching out things for no reasons other than just making it long. I'm physically, mentally incapable of doing that. So I learned to accept that and lean into it as my superpower. I can say a lot in a little. But yeah, this is the story of me turning some of the deepest pain that I felt in my life into something beautiful. So my story of heartbreak. I met someone in 2015. I think also spring, which is or at least going towards spring. Might have been February. I'm not entirely recalling the timeline, but I think it was early in 2015. So yeah, it was like late winter ish, and this person just showed me a world that um, I've never been a part of. It showed me different perspectives and taught me a lot about like African culture and history, and me being from the Caribbean and being kept from a lot of this knowledge. I was very intrigued, and because of like the sense of rebellion that the person had about them and freedom, that also intrigued me because I had a very say sheltered upbringing. So I wanted to see, and I had it blinded me basically to certain red flags that I definitely should have caught early on. And they will be important later on in this story. Yeah, because basically those red flags progressed throughout the years and only got worse. Yeah, the progressed. But at that time, I was blinded by this idea of, oh, let's build an empire together because we're both like entrepreneurs or had entrepreneurial ideas and business ideas that we wanted to carry out together. And so we started doing that. But at a certain point, when you're trying at least to build a business with someone, you get entangled, financially. In terms of the relationship, I got entangled emotionally. I gave a lot of my energy in, building our quote unquote empire and like having our relationship function. And it drained me. I invested my money, my time, my soul into this. And that last year, this person kept threatening to leave. During this period, tensions were high between my partner and I, even though there was always some form of tension present. This last year, it felt as if every other word out of my partner's mouth was criticism of anything and everything that made up my being. The list was long. The way I dressed was too plain. The way I acted in public was too reserved. My body was not tight enough, and I had cellulite. I still do, by the way. My friends were few, and they weren't always hanging around my house. I didn't kiss nor fuck like her previous lovers. I didn't want to dance as instructed, and I didn't want to twerk to her rhythm. And there I stood, day in and day out, accepting all the disapproval, all the attacks on my person, until I started thinking there was truly something wrong with me. And yeah, for months, like constantly, like I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna pack my bag and go to my mom, like that kind of thing. And it got to a point where I got tired of hearing that. And I guess I'm a person that I don't like to make threats. I observe, I take things and maybe take too much. I like think I take less nowadays. But definitely back then I didn't really defend myself and I was taking too much and I was taking and taking, trying to save something that I invested so much in. But yeah, I just got tired one day and basically in a split second I decided I don't want this anymore. I don't. I guess I say it's a split second because it seems like I just flipped and I was like, it was over. But uh, taking like drop, my bucket overflowed, and it was full, and it was causing a leakage kind of situation. Um, so yeah, at that point, I broke it off with that person and basically went to, I think I went to my friend's house that day. Nothing happened that day, but a couple of days later, yes. And basically fell into the situationship. And yeah, after after the breakup, I still kept living there for 3 months because I was paying the rent, and we were discussing who's gonna stay. I said, I'm not gonna stay somewhere we lived together 5 years together. Like, I don't want, I don't want to be around that energy. So, I was looking into leaving, but of course, because I was like carrying us financially, it was the worry who's gonna pay the rent if I leave and these things. Until my aunt was like, well, I would like to have someone pay the rent for me too. And then that was like a slap in the face. And I was like, okay. So my aunt went on vacation and I went to stay at her place. And that was basically the first step of me moving out. While I was there, I looked for a house and I found something, and I was able, because I emailed the people. It was like anti-crack. Anti-crack is like when these old buildings that are set to be remodeled, but not yet. But they have to take out the people that have been living there for years. So you have this middle passage where you could stay there. So I got one of those places, and it was, I think, pretty much still height of Corona time. And yeah, this place became my sanctuary. I was working at home for the appointment line in the Netherlands, and I, when I wasn't working, I was writing, I was dancing, I was painting, just like purging the energy creatively. And so I was writing a lot of poems, and at some point I looked at them and I was like, damn, they're pretty good. I should share this more. I mean, I was sharing it on Instagram, but they felt good, like put it down in the book type good. So that's that. I decided then that I was gonna do a bundle, and I selected 10 pieces. And once I had that selection made, the idea came to me that I would write the story behind it. To Because I think I was talking to my cousin, and my cousin, shout out to Marvin, is not like into poetry or like metaphoric talk. So sorry if I say that wrong, but he has something with like the arts. And I was like, I guess I had him in mind when I was like, well, not everyone understands poetry and metaphor, so maybe I should write the story behind it. And from I should write the story behind it, I decided I'm also going to illustrate um, it, just like illustrate an image, an illustration that goes with each poem, that captures the moment but also the feeling of the poem. um, because yeah, and if you by then don't get what I'm trying to say, that I'm sorry, I don't know how else to explain it. But yeah, that's basically how that idea was born. So it's a short story, more or less linear, um, but it gets interrupted by poetry, and I have a lot of memories about creating this book because it wasn't confined to one space. Like, I would take my laptop with me when I was going anywhere and just write because I don't know, you don't know when inspiration is gonna come. I would be at my friend's place chilling, and I grab my laptop and start typing, and she was like, "What are you doing? You're so weird." And I would let her read and give me feedback until she got tired. And she was like, "I'll read it when it's finished." um, but yeah, I will cherish those moments. and I thought I would do this behind the scenes to share the story. Um, of course, with behind the scenes things, sometimes people share like the technique they used and these things, and I just wrote, and I guess if I'm gonna give one tip is, um, if you if and this is how I do it. I hope it helps. If you write something, let's say poetry or poetic piece, and you read it, um, there's a certain flow, like a natural flow that feels right. That's basically what I look for when I'm writing. Um, I write a piece, and I guess I should look for. Let's see if I can get that quickly. Okay, so I just made behind the scenes thought, are you doing a behind the scenes without like giving some tips? But I can show you how I changed this one from the original being a chaotic masterpiece. I love myself as is, as could be, as always have been. A contradiction of day and night. I accept my darkness, my light. Not bad, but the end result is I find myself amidst a twilight zone, somewhere between my darkness, my light, unraveling mysteries within. I love myself as is, as could be, as I have always been. So it has more of a flow to me, and I guess by now I started writing. People say I don't really write poetry. That is poetic, but I don't follow like the poetry rules because I never learned it that way. I just like listened to poetry, and I understood the kind of metaphoric language um, instinctively, intuitively, and I wrote with it, and I never even realized there was rules to writing poetry. um, but so whatever it is that I write, those poetic pieces, um, that there's a certain flow, and it's really sometimes you have to read it, go to sleep, let a couple of days pass, come back, read it again, and you'll notice it's not quite flowing the way that I want it to flow. There's something missing, and you let it marinate again, and you come back and you let someone else read it and give you feedback, and that is kind of the way that I've gone about it. And sometimes things would sit for years, and I come back and I tweak something, and it's perfect in my eyes, perfect. Um, so that is my technique. I'm sorry if there's not much more that I can share. Let me close this. And so yeah, my technique, you can say, is just no real formula, just my authentic expression. And that is why um oh, I wanted to keep that for later. But that is why some of the feedback that I've gotten is like, you know um it feels like a friend sitting next to me and telling me a personal story, because it was basically that. It's basically me writing to myself or anyone that will listen to my story. And yeah, that's why it feels like that. But I think that I I have a certain natural flow with words. It's a thing. And yeah, as I said about the feedback, my friends would read and give me feedback. Some would give me feedback on the language, like, oh, there's so many spelling mistakes. And I'm like, oh, it's a draft. You know who you are. But yeah, the feedback helped me refine the pieces and get to this final. And it also just gave me um, it motivated me to continue, because I was getting positive feedback, and I was like, oh, they actually like what I'm writing. So that motivated me to keep writing and keep purging creatively. And as I was purging and creating, I really made it into this journey, as I said, like this story, where you go from darkness and heaviness to light and optimistic. And I even end with a manifesto. I have my own manifesto. Um, I might read this at the end of the, like, you see it in the credits. Yeah, in the credits, because we already shifted way too much from what I wanted to do here. Another part of my process, I never experienced like writer's block really, because I guess it was really fresh and I was just like, as said, therapeutically writing. Of course, it was moments that I doubted, should I put this in, and that kind of thing. But in general, it was very vlot, as they say in Dutch, very seamlessly coming out of my inner self, my soul, um, in purging my soul, and I unexpectedly kind of got to the root of certain traumas. And to be honest, I was going to therapy as well, so that was also informing like some of the perspectives that I had in the book. And yeah, just recognizing certain root trauma causes and mentioning them was very healing for me. And as I said, that's somewhere near the beginning of this, that it really became this guideline for myself, for my healing journey, because I don't believe I'm done. It's not linear. And sometimes I have hard moments and I go back and I read them and I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right. you know, you're a strong, independent woman. You can do this. And yeah, but it as I say, I'm a strong, independent woman, but really this taught me that vulnerability is not a weakness. It taught me that my tears were warranted, and they had a place. There was a reason that I felt sad in this relationship, and I was crying so much. I think I've cried more than I've ever in my life had cry being in that relationship. And it taught me to really listen to my intuition, and not be afraid of it, not be afraid of my feelings, that they are signaling something, and to give them space and work through that. Um, and yeah, the beautiful thing for me is that I saw my growth in this book, and each time that I go back and read it, as I said, layers, I realize even more how, because if I read it now, for example, it'll be different than last year, because I had a different phase still. Um, and the more prouder I become of myself, of how far I've come, and how much I've grown and how much I've healed, even though I have a long way to go yet in healing. And so, probably as you could imagine, this process was very intense for me to write it. And so I knew that, and also because it's my first book and I wanted it, I wanted to do justice by it. I think I early on was looking for, um, I don't remember that I looked for. I talked to a lot of people that already published for advice, and I think I did some research. And but so by the time I finished, I had already contacted people to do the editing. So like going through the manuscript, um, taking out all the spelling mistakes and grammatical mistakes and that type of thing, and also gave and also give me like tips on it creatively, like where can I improve something. So I did end up improving. I think it was two or three. I think it was two poems that I ended up improving. One became an obituary. Did I say that right? Obituary. I guess. English is not my first language, people. Um, And yeah, see, I even gave it the tombstone. And um, I think it was like, I don't, can I, oh, I closed it, didn't I? I'm in such disbelief of your words. So sad. RIP, the potential I saw, RIP, the potential I saw firsthand. RIP, the fondness I had once shown. Release the love that I now hold as I grieve for a lover that has gone cold. And if you see here, that last part really flows like, rip the fondness I had once shown, release the love that I now hold as I grieve a lover that has gone cold. I mean, maybe because it rhymes, but it doesn't always have to rhyme. But I think in this case, the rhyming gives it some body. And what my editor said is, well, you should make this into an obituary, question mark, obituary. um and so I looked up obituaries, like, okay, I mean, I know what they are, but like, how can I make this poem into an obituary? And lay the lover to rest. um and it became, you gave me comfort in my darkest days, and between us, a potentially undying love was overthrown. RIP, the fondness I had once shown. Release the love that I now hold as I grieve for a lover that has gone cold. You see, I was very happy with her suggestion, because you see how it made it that much stronger. And she was like, remove that rip, the RIP is what you should use. So that's how that came to be that way. Um, and I'm very happy. It flows very well. Yeah, so I went through the process with the editor, and I fixed the things that I made the changes to the poems, and improved them, and I sent it back to her, and she said it was good. And once that was ready and I had my illustrations ready, I sent them with like where I want everything. So I put, for example, the illustration with the poem on top of it, and I send it to the graphic designer. And for example, I this illustration was there, but the spacey thing wasn't there, and he put it to make it like more, I don't know, intriguing, more flashy, whatever. Um, and the fonts and everything. He put those together and sent it back to me like in different formats. And once that was done, I could get to publishing it, and put it on all of the different places that you can get it. And so yeah, at the end, what I have is this, that represents not only what I've endured and experienced and grown from and grown through, and I don't know, all of the things. And finally, the people that did read it gave me good feedback and reviews. And something amazing happened is that because of the nature of how kind of intimate and personal the story is, um, my readers tell me their stories. Like I've gotten long text back of like, yeah, I went through this, and yeah, I recognize myself through this, and it's the best. It's the best way to connect to people. getting to know people on a deeper level, because I guess once you've read this, you feel like, oh shit, I know too much of her. I, oh, she's my friend now, I guess. So, um, yeah, I kind of has that effect, and people people contact me with their stories, and that has been the most unexpected surprise for me. Like, I did not expect that it will open people up towards me, that they would feel like this freedom to share their story of vulnerability with me. And that is that's, I mean, that's basically, later I started doing it with Poison Honey podcast. At the beginning, Poison Honey podcast was like one of the marketing things for this book as well. And it's kind of from that era of wanting to have vulnerable conversations with people, and I enjoy it till this day. That's why I brought it back. And also, having positive response. Yeah, some people mentioned that it's short, um, but at the same time, it gave me confidence in writing my short stories. Maybe I'll make the short stories a bit longer, but I, for the foreseeable future, don't see myself writing like a thick book or something. But I do want to explore, um, kind of exploring the stories a bit further. Maybe I have to do like short story series or something. Maybe that would work for me. But I'm still finding, yeah, or not even finding. I wanted to say I'm still finding my voice, but I think I'm um, growing in my artistry, and gaining more and more experience. And I'm excited to see where it goes. And if one day I will write a gigantic book, which I doubt it, but who knows? I don't like to limit myself either. So that is the conclusion of how um, A Tale of Her came to be. And yeah, I guess I started talking about the poems a little bit more than I expected to in this video. I mean, like, yeah, I said what I said. I started talking a bit more about them in this video, but I am gonna do a next video where I go a little bit deeper into the symbolism, and yeah, just talk a bit more about that side of things, because as I said, not everyone understands poetic language, and I like to make it accessible because I love it so much. I love the drama of it all. There's different channels that you can get the book at. You can just go to my website, manarak.art, and go to publishing and the tale of her, and you will find like all the informations where you can find the book. And I hope that it helps you on your healing journey, or if you just enjoy reading deeply personal works, yeah, maybe it's something for you. And if you do read it and you like it, I'm happy to hear from you. Until next time, bye. I want to do a thing. I want to do a thing. I want to do a thing. We don't know if it's gonna work, but we're gonna try. Jesus, why do I want to be creative right now? Oh. Okay, so backstory for the endings, I guess. Um, I had practiced this. I had practiced this way for a book reading, and I never actually did it. So we're gonna try. Um, yeah, I don't have the sexiest background right now. So it was This woman I am in my wildest dreams is on the other side of a wall that I'm chipping away at. I am healing from all the shit that makes up this wall. I am missing the beautiful nature of a small Caribbean island. I want to swim so badly at the salty beaches with sparkly sand. In my culture, it is known that salt water holds healing properties, and that's what I long for. I long for those waters that could help me carry away my pain and remove my sorrows. They can help weaken the wall between me and the woman I want to be. Essentially, I want to leave my sorrows in the Atlantic Ocean and borrow from its mighty force to regenerate myself. And then for the sun to shine a light on the new and improved me. But my current reality is different. I'm having to regenerate myself with nothing but memories of how it feels to be submerged in those salty waters. Maybe next year I will make it back home. By then, much of the wall should be down. Then the water will hit differently. I'm sure of it. My gut, my gut says it will feel like a baptism. And that woman will be ready, visible, behind what's left of that wall. The water will wash away the last bits, and it will cleanse my soul. And at the end, all that will remain is her. I'm not trying to say that I will magically remove, I'm not trying to say that it will magically remove all my problems. I am saying I will be reborn as this woman that continuously as this woman that continuously thrives despite it all. A woman that is better equipped to handle this world of marionettes. Lately, I've been hallucinating while standing underneath the hot showers. I must be calibrating, recalculating my worth. My skin longs for the sun. My soul longs for salt water. I close my eyes. I wonder. In these Caribbean blues, I wonder. Okay, that was unplanned.